I never told my daughter about the $52,000 I make every month. She grew up thinking I was just a truck driver who barely made ends meet. When she called to invite me to her engagement dinner with her fiancé's wealthy family, I decided to show up exactly as they expected me to be. But the moment her future mother-in-law handed me a doggy bag and whispered, "You probably need this more than we do, Harold," I knew I'd made the right choice. What they didn't know was that the poor truck driver sitting at their table owned every single delivery truck that kept their hotel empire running. Listen closely. Let me tell you who I really am. But first, I want to know, what city are you listening from? And have you ever been judged by someone who had no idea who they were really dealing with? My morning started the same way it had for the past 30 years. Coffee at 5 a.m., black, no sugar. The apartment was quiet, just the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic from downtown Seattle. I lived in a modest two-bedroom place in Ballard, the kind of neighborhood where fishermen and artists mixed with young families. Nothing fancy. The furniture was comfortable but worn, bought from estate sales and thrift stores over the years. My neighbors thought I was retired, a former long-haul trucker living on Social Security and whatever savings I'd managed to scrape together. They saw the old Ford phone, 150 inches, the parking lot, the flannel shirts, the work boots. They drew their conclusions. What they didn't see was the company I'd built from nothing. Pacific Northwest Logistics. 47 distribution centers across the western United States. 3,000 trucks, 2,000 employees. Contracts with every major hotel chain, retail giant, and e-commerce company from Seattle to San Diego. My phone buzzed. A text from my daughter, Emily. "Dad, please don't forget. Saturday at 6 p.m. The Olympic Hotel downtown. Marcus's parents are really excited to meet you. Dress nice, okay?" Dress nice. There it was. Emily was 34 years old, a pediatric surgeon at Seattle Children's Hospital. Smart, accomplished, everything a father could hope for. But she'd grown up with her mother in Portland after the divorce. I'd sent support checks every month, visited when I could, but the distance had created gaps in what she knew about my life. Her mother, Barbara, had remarried a professor at Portland State. Comfortable life, academic circles, NPR playing in the background. When Emily asked about my work, Barbara would say, "Your father drives trucks, honey. It's honest work." She wasn't wrong. I had driven trucks. For the first 5 years of the company, I was behind the wheel more than I was behind a desk. But that was decades ago. I texted back, "I'll be there. Looking forward to it." Then I opened my laptop and did what any businessman would do. I researched my future in-laws. Marcus Whitfield, 36 years old, investment banker at a boutique firm downtown. His parents, Richard and Victoria Whitfield, owned the Whitfield Collection, a chain of luxury boutique hotels, 12 properties from California to British Columbia. The flagship, the Whitfield Grand in downtown Seattle, was famous for its rooftop restaurant and its clientele of tech billionaires and visiting celebrities. I scrolled through their website, studying the photos. Richard Whitfield had the polished look of old money, silver hair, tailored suits, the kind of tan you get from golf courses and yacht clubs. Victoria was elegant in that practiced way, charity galas and museum boards, pearls and designer dresses. Their annual revenue was around $40 million. Impressive by any measure. What made me smile was the logistics section of their operations report. Every single one of their hotels received daily deliveries. Linens, food supplies, beverages, toiletries, everything that kept a luxury hotel running smoothly. The delivery company? Pacific Northwest Logistics, my company. The contract was worth $2.3 million annually. I'd signed the renewal myself 6 months ago. They had no idea. Saturday arrived cold and gray, typical November weather for Seattle. I stood in front of my closet, thinking about Emily's text. Dress nice. I pulled out a pair of khakis, clean but faded. A blue button-down shirt, the kind you'd find at JCPenney, not Brooks Brothers. Brown leather shoes, comfortable and scuffed. I looked in the mirror and saw exactly what I wanted them to see. A working-class man. A truck driver's wardrobe for a truck driver's life. I wasn't trying to deceive anyone. I was simply choosing not to correct their assumptions. The drive downtown took 20 minutes. I parked my phone 150 inches the hotel's underground garage between a Mercedes and a Tesla. The valet looked at my truck like it had wandered in from a construction site. "Evening, sir. Are you here for the restaurant?" "Meeting my daughter and her fiancé's family." He nodded, handing me a ticket without the enthusiasm he'd shown the Porsche that pulled in behind me. The lobby of the Olympic Hotel was everything you'd expect. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, staff in crisp uniforms moving with practiced elegance. I'd been in hundreds of hotels over the years, negotiated contracts in their conference rooms, dined in their restaurants. But tonight, I walked through like a visitor from another world. Emily spotted me near the entrance. She looked beautiful in a burgundy dress, her dark hair pulled back, but her smile carried a nervous edge. "Dad, you made it. Wouldn't miss it for anything." She hugged me quickly, then stepped back, her eyes scanning my outfit. I saw the flicker of something, disappointment maybe, or worry. "You look comfortable." "These are my good clothes, sweetheart." She took my arm and led me toward the restaurant. "Marcus's parents are already here. They're really looking forward to meeting you." The restaurant was called The Terrace, and it occupied the top floor of the hotel. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered views of Elliott Bay and the Olympic Mountains beyond. White tablecloths, fresh flowers, the quiet murmur of wealth. I spotted them immediately. Richard Whitfield sat at a corner table, commanding the space like a king on his throne. Victoria sat beside him, her posture perfect, her jewelry catching the light. Marcus rose as we approached. A tall young man with his father's confident bearing and an easy smile that probably worked well in boardrooms. "Mr. Patterson," Marcus said, extending his hand. "It's wonderful to finally meet you. Emily talks about you all the time." "Call me Harold," I said, shaking his hand. "And I hope she says good things." "Only the best." Richard stood to greet me, his handshake firm but brief, the kind of grip that assessed you in 3 seconds. "Harold, welcome. Please, sit down." Victoria offered her hand, like it was a gift. "We've heard so much about you. Emily mentioned you spent your career in transportation?" "Trucking, mostly," I said, settling into my chair. "Drove rigs for about 30 years, retired a few years back." "How interesting." Her tone suggested it was anything but. "That must have been quite an adventure." "All those long highways." "Had its moments." A waiter appeared, handing out menus bound in leather. I glanced at the prices. No numbers listed, which meant they were high enough that the clientele wasn't supposed to care. Richard ordered a bottle of wine without consulting anyone, something French that probably cost more than my monthly electric bill. Victoria requested sparkling water. Marcus and Emily followed their lead. "Just water for me," I said. "Tap is fine." The waiter nodded, but I caught the slight raise of Victoria's eyebrow. The assessment had begun. "So, Harold," Richard said, leaning back in his chair, "Emily tells us you live in Ballard. Nice neighborhood. Very eclectic. Been there about 15 years. Close to the water. Quiet. Do you own or rent?" The question was casual, but the intent was clear. Taking inventory. "Rent?" I said. "Never saw the point in owning more space than I need." Victoria made a small sound, something between understanding and pity. "That's very practical. With housing prices these days, it makes sense to be careful. Especially on a fixed income," Richard added. "Social Security doesn't stretch as far as it used to." I nodded, letting them fill in the blanks. The truck driver living month to month. The father who probably needed help but was too proud to ask. Emily shifted in her seat, clearly uncomfortable. "Dad managed to put me through college. He's always been good with money. Community college first. Then I transferred to a state school," she added quickly, as if defending both of us. "Nothing wrong with that," Marcus said, though his mother's expression suggested otherwise. The appetizers arrived. Oysters for the Whitfields, a simple salad for me. I'd ordered the least expensive item I could find without looking too obvious. "The hotel business must keep you busy," I said, steering the conversation. "I saw you have 12 properties now." Richard's chest puffed slightly. 13, actually. We just acquired a property in Napa Valley. Wine country is booming. The logistics must be complicated. All those deliveries, supplies, keeping everything stocked. "That's what we have people for," Victoria said. "We focus on the guest experience. The behind-the-scenes operations are handled by contractors." Smart approach. I took a bite of my salad. "You probably don't even know who delivers your linens." "Why would we?" Richard laughed. "That's not our concern. We negotiate the contracts, and the vendors handle the rest. As long as the trucks show up on time, I don't care if they're driven by robots." I smiled and said nothing. The main courses arrived with theatrical precision. Richard had ordered the Wagyu beef, $200 a plate. Victoria chose the lobster. Emily and Marcus had salmon. I'd requested the chicken, the most modest option that wouldn't raise eyebrows. "Harold," Victoria said, delicately cutting her lobster, "have you thought about what you'll do now that Emily is getting married? Settling down, I mean. Making sure you're taken care of?" "I manage fine." "Of course you do. But weddings are expensive. Emily mentioned you offered to contribute, which is very sweet, but we wouldn't want you to overextend yourself." Emily's face flushed. "Mom, Dad insisted on helping." "And we appreciate the gesture," Victoria continued. "But Richard and I have already budgeted for everything. There's no need for you to strain your finances. The ceremony alone is costing us $80,000, Richard added, as if the number itself was a credential. Plus the reception, the honeymoon, the photographer. It adds up. I'm sure it does. We just want you to know that there's no pressure. Family takes care of family, and we consider you family now." The word family hung in the air, wrapped in conditions. Marcus cleared his throat. "Maybe we should talk about something else." "Actually," Victoria said, reaching into her purse, "this is a perfect time." She pulled out an envelope and slid it across the table toward me. "Richard and I discussed this, and we wanted to offer you a little help." I didn't touch the envelope. "What kind of help?" "A monthly allowance," Richard said. "Nothing extravagant. $700, just to make sure you're comfortable. We know how hard it can be for retirees these days, especially those without pensions." $700. The amount was calculated, generous enough to seem kind, small enough to establish hierarchy. Emily looked mortified. "That's really not necessary." "We insist," Victoria said. "It's the least we can do. After all, you raised a wonderful daughter, Harold. You deserve to enjoy your golden years without worrying about bills." I picked up the envelope, felt its weight. Inside, I knew there would be a check. First installment of their charity. "That's very thoughtful," I said quietly. "I'll think about it." Richard nodded, satisfied. "Take your time, but know that the offer stands. We take care of our own." The meal continued, conversation flowing around me like water around a stone. They talked about their recent trip to Italy, the renovations at the Napa property, the challenges of finding good staff. I listened, nodded, played my part. When the dessert menus arrived, Victoria waved hers away. "I couldn't possibly. But Harold, you should order something. Treat yourself." "I'm fine, thank you." "Nonsense. The chocolate torte here is famous. My treat." She ordered it for me before I could protest. The waiter brought it with a flourish. A tower of chocolate and cream that belonged in a magazine. "There," Victoria said, watching me take a bite. "Everyone deserves a little luxury now and then." Her smile was kind on the surface, condescending underneath. The poor truck driver getting a taste of the good life. The check arrived in a leather folder. Richard reached for it automatically, glancing at the total with practiced indifference. His hand went to his jacket pocket, pulling out a titanium card that probably had no spending limit. The waiter processed it, then returned with an apologetic expression. "I'm sorry, Mr. Whitfield." The card was declined. Richard's confident mask slipped. "That's impossible. Run it again." The waiter complied. Same result. "There must be a problem with your machine," Victoria said, her voice tight. "The machine is working fine, ma'am. Perhaps you have another card?" Richard produced a second card, then a third. Each one declined. His face had gone from tanned to pale, sweat beading at his temple. "This is ridiculous," he muttered, pulling out his phone. "There's obviously a banking error." Emily and Marcus exchanged worried glances. The tables around us had gone quiet, other diners pretending not to notice the unfolding drama. "Let me check our accounts," Richard said, scrolling through his phone. His expression shifted from annoyance to confusion to something close to panic. "This doesn't make sense. The business accounts are showing." "Restrictions?" I reached into my back pocket and pulled out my wallet. Inside was a black card, heavy, simple, with my name embossed in silver. Harold Patterson, Pacific Northwest Logistics. "Let me cover it," I said. The waiter's eyes widened when he saw the card. He knew what it was. Anyone in the hospitality industry would recognize a corporate unlimited card. Of course, Mr. Patterson, he said, his entire demeanor changing. Right away. Richard stared at me. What is that? My company card. Your company? Pacific Northwest Logistics. I let the words settle over the table like a fog. We handle freight and delivery for most of the major businesses on the West Coast. Hotels, retailers, restaurants. If it needs to get somewhere, chances are my trucks are carrying it. Victoria's hand had frozen on her water glass. Logistics? But you said you were a truck driver. I was. Started driving rigs in 1987. Built the company from one truck and a lot of overtime. Now we have 3,000. Emily's mouth had fallen open. Dad, what are you saying? I'm saying that I know exactly who delivers your future in-laws' linens, Victoria, because I signed the contracts myself. The Whitfield collection has been a client of mine for 11 years. Your account is worth about $2.3 million annually. Richard looked like he'd swallowed something sharp. That's not possible. Check your vendor list. Pacific Northwest Logistics. Every delivery, every shipment, every supply truck that keeps your hotels running, that's my company. The waiter returned with my card and the receipt. The total was $1,800. A rounding error in my monthly budget. Thank you for dinner, I said, signing the receipt. It's been very educational. Victoria found her voice first. Harold, we had no idea. We never would have. The envelope, the offer. We didn't mean to insult you. Didn't you? I looked at her steadily. You saw an old man in faded clothes and decided he needed your charity. You calculated exactly how much help a retired truck driver deserved. $700 a month to make sure I stayed comfortable and out of the way. Marcus was shaking his head slowly. Mr. Patterson, I swear I didn't know. I believe you. I turned to Emily, whose eyes were glistening. I wanted to see what kind of people they were, sweetheart. Not for me, but for you. I needed to know who you were marrying into. Dad, why didn't you ever tell me? Because I wanted you to become who you are without the weight of money. I wanted you to work hard, to earn your place, to understand that your worth isn't measured by your bank account. Your mother and I agreed on that much, even after the divorce. Emily stood up, came around the table, and hugged me tight. I don't care about the money. I never did. I know, baby. That's why I'm proud of you. I straightened up and addressed the table. Richard, Victoria, your hotels are beautiful. You've built something impressive. But success without humility is just expensive arrogance. I picked up the envelope Victoria had given me and placed it back in front of her. I don't need your $700. What I needed was to see how you treat people you think are beneath you. Now I know. Richard stood, his businessman's instincts finally kicking in. Harold, let's not be hasty. We're going to be family. Surely we can move past this misunderstanding. That depends entirely on you. I looked at Marcus. Your parents just learned something important about judging books by their covers. The question is whether they're capable of changing, and whether you're the kind of man who will stand up for what's right, even when it's uncomfortable. Marcus nodded slowly. I understand, sir. Good. I turned back to Emily. Walk me to my truck? We left the restaurant together, leaving the Whitfields to process what had just happened. The elevator ride down was silent except for the soft music playing through the speakers. In the parking garage, Emily stopped next to my F-150. You could drive any car in the world, she said, half laughing, half crying. And you choose this? It runs fine, gets me where I need to go. Dad, I had no idea. All these years, I thought. I know what you thought. That's okay. I wanted you to see me as your father, not as a dollar sign. Too many kids grow up thinking money is identity. I didn't want that for you. She hugged me again, longer this time. What happens now? Now you decide what matters to you. Whether Marcus is worth it. Whether his parents can learn to be better. I'll support whatever you choose. Even after what they did, people can change, Emily. Some do, some don't. Give them a chance to prove which kind they are. We stood in the cold garage, father and daughter, finally understanding each other. Come, have dinner at my place next week, I said. Just the two of us. I'll tell you the whole story. The company, the divorce, all of it. I'd like that. And bring Marcus if you want. Might be good for him to see where I really live. Modest apartment, fishing trophies on the wall, leftovers in the fridge. That's the real me, sweetheart. The money is just what I do. It's not who I am. She smiled through her tears. I love you, Dad. Love you too, baby girl. Driving home through the rainy Seattle streets, I thought about the evening. The Whitfields weren't bad people, not really. They were just trapped in a worldview that measured worth by wealth. It was a common disease, especially among the successful. Maybe they'd learn something from tonight. Maybe not. But Emily had seen what I needed her to see. That respect doesn't come from bank accounts. That dignity isn't purchased with designer labels. That the measure of a person is how they treat those they think can do nothing for them. My phone buzzed as I pulled into my parking spot. A text from Emily. Marcus just apologized to me for an hour straight. His parents are in shock. His mom cried. I think tonight might have actually changed something. I smiled and typed back. Good people can make mistakes. Great people learn from them. Let's see which kind they are. Looking back on that evening, I realized that the best lessons come from unexpected places. My father taught me that when I was young, driving beside him in his delivery truck through the back roads of Oregon. He never had much, but he treated everyone with respect, from the CEO to the janitor. Son, he used to say, you can tell everything about a person by how they treat the waiter. Tonight, the Whitfields failed that test. But tomorrow is a new day. And if they're smart, they'll realize that the old truck driver they dismissed is the same man who keeps their empire running, one delivery at a time. What do you think about this story? Have you ever been judged by your appearance, only to surprise everyone later? Share your experiences in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories about moments when people underestimated you. If this message resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe to st-sweetrevenge for more stories about dignity, respect, and the sweet taste of proving people wrong. Sometimes the most powerful people are the ones who don't need to prove anything at all.